Chapter 20. B.B. King. My first recollection of hearing B.B. King was in 1969 while at boarding school in the 10th grade at Woodward Academy. The big FM station, WPLO, underground radio as it was known back then, would play B's commercially released version of The Thrill Is Gone. Although the strings in the arrangement appeared out of character to me, his haunting guitar lead licks in that song always seemed like something I could probably replicate. It was a beautiful sound. From the time way back in hearing the lead solo in Louie Louie by the Kingsmen and Rick Derringer's guitar solo in Hang On Sloopy, that single-note style of guitar always grabbed me. Time after time I would sit with my guitar and try to match mine with the style of the King of the Blues. This was even before the spiritual experience of watching Duane Allman from 8 feet away that would occur 2 years later. In attempting to imitate B.B. King's style and learn his solos, it was all about memorization at that time. I had no clue about scales on the guitar, major, minor, pentatonic, or otherwise. The excitement arrived after managing to match the notes up to The Thrill Is Gone in the key of B or B flat. Little did I know at the time that B was one of the pioneers of the blues music style. From time to time, Johnny Carson would have B.B. King on his iconic late-night show in the 60s and 70s as a regular performer. After graduating high school, a copy of the album, Live at Cook County Jail, made it into my record collection. During my first year in college back in New Jersey, I would wear the album out trying to learn those lead licks. After returning to Georgia in 1973 to begin my career of teaching guitar lessons, The Thrill Is Gone would be a template for part of my teaching approach. The style of B.B. King would play a big part in everything I did as far as playing the guitar was concerned. During my teaching career, students would ask about learning the style of B.B. King. Many more notable and successful guitarists would cite B.B. King as a major influence. It would be years of gigs in nightclubs, festivals, and joints where the B.B. King medley copied by Duane and Greg Allman in their group, the Allman Joys, would show up regularly in my set. My one chance to see B.B. King was around 1975 when he performed in Atlanta at Alex Cooley's Electric Ballroom. At that time, he was celebrating his 30th anniversary in the music business. There was a previous show I had hoped to attend that was canceled on New Year's Eve of 1974 to 1975 at the noted Atlanta concert nightclub, Richards. About 20 years later, in 1994, my first CD, Hurricane Blues, was released. Later that next year, in the spring of 1995, B.B. King made another appearance in Atlanta at the Center Stage Theater. At the same time, the Atlanta Blues Society was holding a ceremony in Atlanta to plant a tree in memory of the legendary blues musician Willie Dixon, who had recently passed away. Somehow the word got out to B.B. about the ceremony. He decided to make it a point to be there to break ground with the first shovelful of dirt for the tree planting. It was only then that I had the opportunity to shake hands with the King of the Blues. It just so happened that my schedule for the next month included my dream come true of being included in a lineup on a festival in Huntsville, Alabama, opening up for B.B. King. I took the opportunity to seize the day by having a copy of Hurricane Blues with me to give to B.B. When I shook his hand, I politely mentioned to him that I would be on the bill at the festival with him that next month in Huntsville. Of course, the chance to hand B a copy of my first CD didn't go to waste. He was very cordial and a real gentleman as he took the disc and gently carried it in his hand from the site where the tree was being planted back to his limousine. My last memory from that great day was witnessing B.B. King entering the back of his limousine with my first CD, Hurricane Blues, firmly clutched in his hand. The opportunity of opening for B.B. King at the Sportsman Park Memorial Day Blues Festival on Memorial Day weekend of 1995 is very interesting. Back in the summer of 1994, my yearly tour took me out on the road for about 2 weeks from the Carolinas out through Texas, northern Florida, and southern Alabama. There was one stop in Huntsville, Alabama at a nightclub for a regular but uneventful passing through town type of gig. The unfortunate but not surprising part was that the club owner did not promote the show at all. In those days, there was no social media, with the internet as we know it today totally in its infancy. Other than the regular grassroots method of passing out flyers and mailing postcards, along with making phone calls, it was the only way to really promote a show. Had the venue owner done his part and advertised on radio and in print, someone would have known about the show and might have actually showed up. Here we were, set up to play, and there was not one person in the club. Nobody. This was a result of typical club owner negligence by expecting the musicians to do all of his work. More often than not, they think it's totally the musician's job to run their business for them. While there are many good club owners out there, many seem to think that it omits them from their responsibility to step up to the plate in making any effort to get people into their venue. As we contemplated just packing the gear up without performing and just moving on, one person entered the club. It was a young black gentleman who took a seat toward the back of the club by himself. His body language indicated that he would like to hear some music. Not being one to let anybody down, we played our show for one as if there were 1,000 people there. At the end of the show, the gentleman walked up to me and said he really liked the band and that he would like to book me on his festival in Huntsville held over Memorial Day weekend the next year. That was well and good, but taken with a grain of salt. Many times customers will approach me at a gig expressing an interest in hiring us for a future date, then they never follow through. At the same time, while in someone else's venue, it's also not the best time and place to discuss business. On this night, since the club owner had done nothing to help promote our appearance, I was all ears and willing to listen. He said he would know more about his lineup at a later date, but he really appeared serious about the band performing. He gave me his phone number and told me to contact him soon. In calling him the next week, it was a good thing I did, since many festivals are booked months in advance. On those types of events, it's always good to get a head start in trying to land a date. When asking him who would be the headliner that we would be opening for, he simply told me that it would be a chance for me to share the stage with B.B. King. It was pretty much a dream-come-true moment when he said that because, as stated earlier, my whole career began by learning B.B. King licks from first hearing him on the radio, memorizing his records, seeing him in person, watching him on TV, and just being all over his guitar style. It was truly amazing when the opportunity finally arrived in May of 1995. When checking into our motel in Huntsville, everywhere you turned, there were posters and flyers about the Sportsman Park Memorial Day Blues Fest starring B.B. King. And with a whole other series of opening acts, including yours truly, Roger Hurricane Wilson, listed on the bill, it felt really good. It was a 2-day-long event, with the crowd numbering about 2,000 or so. My set was the third set of the afternoon. It was just a great time. When B.B. came on later that evening, he had a lot of security around him. For that reason, I didn't get a chance to meet or talk to him that night, even to just casually say hello and to maybe gently remind him of having met him the month before. It was just good to be there for a great opportunity to open for B.B. King. The large old-style promotional poster still hangs in my living room at this writing 20 years later. My only other opportunity to see B.B. King was at the Blues Music Awards in Memphis back around 2008 when he made an appearance there. My youngest son Ryan was there with me. He ran up to the stage and snapped a few pictures of B that night. He knew about my adventure of having performed with him years before that. It made me proud that he was able to witness the great B.B. King in person. A few years later, the radio show Me and You with B.B. King, hosted by Bill Wax on B.B. King's Bluesville on Sirius XM Radio, was airing weekly. And mentioning my interaction by handing B.B. my CD in Atlanta many years before to Bill, he passed along that information to B during one of their broadcast recordings at his home in Las Vegas. B.B. said he remembered it. That made me feel good. B passed away on May 14, 2015, just a week short of exactly 20 years to the day I had the honor of being with him on the same stage. The King of the Blues has gone home after a great run.